Talk.
It's good. Is that my air conditioner or yours?
I think your air conditioning is turned up to 100.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
It's good.
All
Is
right.
that mine? Oh, all right. Sorry about that, everyone.
You're staying nice and cool there. It sounds.
Sorry about that. Well, it's humid, and I did. Sunday is the day I like to do my little bit of cleaning.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to be in all that heat and doing all that work. So that's just so
No,
it's.
I don't want. I mean, pets are supposed to be in heat, not humans.
How do you? What makes you say that, Eric Cohen?
Well, aren't I mean, I've owned pets. Uh, which pet aren't pets sometimes supposed to be in heat? Cat, right? Cats in heat?
You.
I don't know.
What are you talking about? Are, are you
Sorry,
are you talking about temperature or mating?
I believe I'm talking about the latter.
No,
I had a little wine before the show. So,
you didn't. You
no.
never do. You're just
All
not
right,
as.
you know what? I should just shut up because
No, please don't. We love you.
I'm just talking gibberish.
Yeah, that's okay. So how are you? Besides all the gibberish that is wanting to come out.
Oh, I'm fine. I did some cleaning as well today. Got outside and
Did you go on a walk?
enjoyed the heat a little. I did, yeah, I did. And I'm showered and freshened up just for you and our audience and our guests.
Yes, yes.
Um, so and I even watched the movie last night that I had on DVR for the longest time that my dad has been getting me to watch for years and years and years, and I finally watched it last night. This goes back to the whole heat thing. Some Like It Hot.
Oh, yeah, but that's a great movie.
It really, I
Great.
thoroughly enjoyed
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you
Um,
remind me. I need to watch some of those classic things more
T-
often.
do you watch TCM at all? Like class?
Well, once in a while I do when someone alerts me to something that I need to go watch. Um,
Yeah.
it's inevitably way better than some of the choices you have, on Hulu and Netflix and all that. I'm watching some inane thing right now that I'd rather watch that. So thank you for the idea.
No, we did both watch Schitt's Creek. I mean, there is some good things.
That we have, but that's good. There's nothing. I already went through a Virgin River had another season. I went through that in 2 or 3 days. That's another very simple. It's kind of a simple-minded thing, but I like it.
Virgin River. Okay.
It's a name of a town. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
And
a, it,
my mom, who I know you adore and she adores you, she's counting down the days to a show that she loves on public television. It's entitled Call the Midwife.
Not sure about that one.
Yeah, it's going into their 10th season, but my mom, she and a dear friend of hers whose son I went to elementary school with, like as soon as the episode ends and the season starts, I believe I think September. It's one of those shows where they both watch the show, and once the show ends, they call each other and talk about it. So
Oh, that I love doing that though.
I've
I,
never, I've
I
never really done that.
it's the hardest thing about living alone is not having someone to watch a show and talk about the show with, like while it's happening.
Yeah,
I miss that a lot. Other than that, I'm fine.
yeah. Oh, you know what you could immerse yourself in because it's going to be on a lot the next couple of weeks is the Olympics. I don't know.
Yeah, not a fan.
Not a fan of like
Not a
watching like badminton or
No, not a fan. Just not a fan.
weightlifting, volleyball. No, okay.
No,
Gymnastics. Okay.
no,
Okay.
no. Oh dear, I'm going to get myself. I know this is going to get me in trouble. Those of us that are in the arts,
Yeah.
sometimes we feel a little sad that so much money goes to sports and so little money goes to the arts in different institutions. So,
You think a lot of money goes to sports, really? No, I'm just
well, you know, so
I
where
guess
it is. I mean, we've got many colleges, and when Steve comes on, we can ask Steve. He's just a storehouse of
yeah, he
information
is.
and stuff. But many colleges have jazz programs now. Thank God. They don't all have jazz vocal programs, which is like even the Eastman School does not have a jazz voice program.
Really? Even at Eastman, that's
Yeah.
surprising.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I get students who quickly find out that they don't want to be classical singers, and then they come find me. You know,
Hmm.
pretty kind of
Anyway, by the
anyway.
way, I want to point. I do feel I need to point this out to our audience. By the way, hello to
There's
Jonathan Knapp. Renee, as always, is back with us. Rosalind Blue. Wow, she calls us the dynamic duo. Huh.
well, thank
Cookie,
you.
Cookie Coogan. So you told me shortly before we went live that you had not noticed that I had this Jazz Fest clock behind me until
No,
tonight.
I never noticed it before. Well, you know what it is? I noticed it was a clock. I did not notice it was Jazz Fest, and it had little notes.
Yeah. It does not have the correct time. In fact, it's not even actually operating. But when I got this background set up, I think it was our third show. I thought, wait a minute, I've got this Jazz Fest clock. I think it would look nice. And it only took 43 shows for you to notice, but I'm glad
I don't know that's very odd that I.
you noticed the picture of yourself behind me. Oh, oh, obviously, yeah, right, of course. Um, uh,
You also recognize the one of you.
yeah, but I purposely put you more. You're
You're
more
not
in
55 yet. How old are you? You aren't 55 yet, right?
No, I'll be 50 in less than 3 months.
It'll be a while before but you'll be on that magazine.
You think I have a chance?
Yeah. Sure.
All right, I hope so.
I want to talk about,
What do you want to talk about?
well, nothing. I want to talk about our guest because
Right, yeah, and you've got a nice little.
I found the greatest video.
Yeah,
And
I've not seen this. So for folks who are going to be watching this, I'm watching right along with you because I have not. Nancy did not give me a preview of what we're about to see, but
I found it quite by mistake. I was wanting to make sure that I had
yeah,
not misspoke on some. You know how my father used to say, when all else fails, get out the instruction book. I mean, it's you know, I'll say something and then I have to go look up and make sure I was right about it, which is not very wise. But
well, no, I think this will be from what you described to me, this sounds like a really nice way of bringing on our guest this
yeah,
week, and I know his lovely wife is watching in the chat, and I know she's also doing some tech support as well. So in case we run into any technical issues, we know that Barbara is right there to help out. But anyway, without any further ado, Nance, I'm
yeah.
gonna
Let me share this wonderful. Um, the only thing about it is well, the music is very college like, and that's all I'm gonna say.
Oh, that's fine.
I wish they were playing some jazz. Anyway, let me see if I can get it shared properly. And
I gotta turn my light up.
hopefully everyone will be able to hear this and see this.
Can't hear it though. Can't hear.
You're not hearing it.
Not hearing it. No. All right.
Why?
Did you make sure when you shared the screen to click?
All right, I have turn off original sound. So I have original sound on.
You do.
I have share sound optimize.
So you have those boxes checked?
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh dear.
And I saw you had the volume turned up on the video. Okay.
What shall I do?
Well, I mean, let's try it. Let's try it again. Worst comes to worst, the video we can watch the video without the music. It still will. I think it still will get the point across.
Let me try doing this. Just bear with me.
I'll give you a thumbs up if.
Yeah, if you can hear it. A hard time.
After graduating with a music education,
Oh, now we're hearing it.
he began teaching and performing in the New York jazz scene. Later, he returns to IC.
All right, so now just go back to.
I'm just going to start it over.
Well, yeah, we were getting audio, so I think you got it now. Oh, okay.
Please tell me you heard that.
No, unfortunately, we did not.
You didn't hear it?
We didn't know. We didn't hear it, but I didn't want to say to interrupt it. So
Well,
it's fine. It's fine. It played, and we got to see the visuals. So
well, I don't know what's the matter. Why don't we just bring Steve on and he can
yeah,
talk?
I'm pretty sure we're gonna hear Steve when he comes on. So, but we got to see some pictures of Steve through the years, and momentarily we're gonna get to see Steve Brown right here and now. So
Let's do it.
yeah.
Let's do it. I'm sorry about that. I should have sent you the link. You're so much better.
Well, I've been known to screw up a few things. So
There we are.
there he is.
Hello.
Can you hear Steve Nance? Yeah, no.
I don't know. I played that video and no one heard the sound. So,
No, it's okay. It's all right.
well,
We hear you loud and clear. So that's
but
what matters.
my techie ego is damaged. Anyway, anyway. Well, we could play it again. I could send the link to you. Would you like to play it, Eric, if I send the link to you?
Sure.
All right, I'm going to do that because
I just want to massage your ego back to a good place.
Well, Joe Cortini said I have to share computer sound, but I don't know where that thing is to do that. I don't know.
The settings.
Send it to me, and I'll give you a shot. I'll give it a shot. We already have our first "Love You Baby" from the chat, Mr. Joe Corello. I'm assuming I think that's to you, Steve. I don't think that's to Nancy and I, although we did have Joe on our show. So, you know, I think he meant it for all three of us, but probably for you. So.
No, for all of us, yes.
Yeah.
All right, so should I send this in an email, Eric?
Yeah, just email it to me, and you know, we could drop it in a little bit later, or I can try it again now.
Because I'm not trying to figure out what went wrong right this minute.
I know Steve's time is precious, and He's got other interviews to do, and I mean, Steve is in high demand. Okay, Nancy just sent me.
Okay.
All right.
So you guys have had a very busy day. Thank you for coming on in spite of how busy you've been all day long. You had family there?
Oh yeah, I wasn't. Tell us about that.
You weren't in on that conversation.
I know when I joined like our little pre-Zoom chat, I expect to just see Nancy, and I'm joining in on a conversation between Nancy and Steve and Steve's lovely wife Barbara. So yeah, kind of catch me up on your Sunday.
We're asking you, Steve.
Steve, yeah.
Barbara's cousin Iris came to deposit her granddaughter, well, at least look at the dormitory at Cornell University, because she's been accepted into as a freshman in Cornell University next year. So they decided to come up and find out where we lived. So in case she needed anybody, we were just down the block, because we only live 3 blocks from Cornell.
Wow.
And they were from Long Island.
Oh, what part? What part?
Syosset, yes.
Okay.
Roslyn, yeah.
Oh yeah, know it very well.
No, sure. I grew up on the South Shore in Freeport.
You grew up. Now, did I see you were born? Were you born in Rockville Center?
Yes, that's on Long Island. There was a hospital there, but I lived in Freeport. I grew up in Freeport. And,
wow.
And my father. Shall I go into some of this? Yes.
Why not? It's interesting.
Steve, you are our guest, please, by all means.
Was Glenn Brown, and he was and my mother was Marie Ward Brown, and my father played with Xavier Cugat's band for about 13 years. Oh. And at the same time, he was in the vanguard. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, see, I had it ready at the start, you know.
Good for you, man. Thank you. He was on all those recordings, and they needed a marimba player, and he was a specialist in the marimba at that time. Today, everybody's got the sound of the marimba on their telephone, you know.
Right.
But back then, it was a rarity, and he was recommended by the previous marimba player who was from Mexico originally. But my father was always interested in popular music and Latin music and expanding education. And he graduated from Ithaca College in 36.
That's cool.
Right? And then he met my mom there. And long story short, he took a job in Long Beach, Long Island, in New York State. And I lived in Freeport, which was about 25 minutes of drive away. Yeah. And he was the first man to start jazz education in schools, because in 1946 and 1947, he presented what were called swing in school time. And they were at Town Hall in New York City. And he had guys like Cab Calloway and so forth give him arrangements and charts. And he had an all-star band from people from all over Long Island. He was very much in the vanguard of the jazz education movement. So in a nutshell, that's where my background came from. And then I attended Ithaca College myself. And then some of my family have attended, and my wife and so forth. So I have a very long history with Ithaca College. Yeah.
Yes,
When you were a little fella, what was your first instrument? Guitar? Is that what you did?
Yes, I saw Gene Autry on television, and I wanted to play the guitar. Yeah,
oh, wow.
My father played the vibes in marimba on gigs, and he had a trio: bass, guitar, and vibes, similar to the Red Norvo group sound of the time. A little bit before the George Shearing popularity of that similar sound. And he worked a lot as a trio, largely in the New York City area, at the same time that he was teaching school in Long Beach, Long Island. And Billy Crystal, the comedian, was one of the performers in my father's annual swing show that he used to give at his high school every spring.
Ah.
And he had many, many great players that went through his program well before I started in the same kind of business. And actually, my first percussion teacher was probably my father, because he was teaching in a studio that was right next door to my bedroom on Saturdays. And I would just sit in my room and take in the lesson, as it were, And then I played in all the high school bands and all of that kind of stuff. And
Yeah, that's a lot of the people that we've had on that are what I would consider virtuoso, which is I will indeed consider you a virtuoso. There's no question. They've all had very similar backgrounds with so much music and a parent, someone that is playing music and already a musician, and they're just surrounded with it in their lives.
I've just been working with Dino Lostito's trio recently, and I brought in a tune called My Blue Heaven. And I remember listening to that tune played for me by my grandfather on my mother's side in Kingston, New York, because that's where she came from. And my father came from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And, just finding that kind of background, because that goes back to my grandparents, who were part-time musicians also, some of them anyway.
That's interesting. Yeah, my grandfather had a society band in Rochester. He was a pianist and a violinist.
Wonderful, wonderful, yes.
I can remember him because I like all the rest of us started, at 3, picking out. I'd hear something and then go play it on the piano,
Right.
And they started me with lessons. But Grandpa took me up on his lap and he said, "Nancy, don't get in the music business."
And she obviously did.
I didn't listen.
She did not listen. Nope.
Right. Well,
I know why he said that.
I personally are in many ways a clone of my father, because he basically was a family man. I'm one of 5 children, and my brother Ray is a musician. My brother Roger was a bass player for a long period of time. And my sister played the flutes, and we all had a family band, and I used to play assembly programs when I was very young with my father and my brother Roger on bass, with like a trio of vibes, guitar and bass. And I had this kind of experience. I just want to add one quick thing. Today, music education is nothing, and you're going to agree, is nothing like it used to be in our society. After World War II, when all those big band cats came back home and were looking for jobs, they went to school and got teaching degrees, and they became the band directors of the 50s and 60s that started the jazz movement in the whole United States and then worldwide. And that's when that happened, historically speaking. The late 40s and 50s is when that started. And I started teaching in the 60s, and there were people like David Baker and Jerry Coker and others from that period of time, Jamie Aebersold and all of that. They, developed this, and plus those teachers that were veterans of World War II, in many cases, who became school teachers, music teachers in schools all around the country. And that really built a large, strong jazz education program in the United States, which has continued to today, but it's much more difficult and it's smaller today, I have to say. And so music education in general is not anywhere near. A teacher that taught kindergarten back when I was a kindergarten student or a first grade student, they had to play the piano.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
To know how to sing and use solfeggio and read music. And I learned how to sing in a minor key in the 6th grade, and they were called La songs because that's the Aeolian mode, and it's La, Ti, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La. It's the same as the Do, Re, Mi. It's the same as the scale starting on La. It makes so much sense to call it a La song, an Aeolian scale. It's so simple, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I heard that some schools are no longer using solfege, though. They're turning to numbers now.
One of the most important things that I ever learned as a musician, I still use it to this day. If I'm listening, I'm on an airplane, I'm writing some intervals, and I want to make sure that I get the right sounds, I use the solfeggio. My brother Ray uses the same system.
Do you know what we're talking about, Eric?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
All of the great players use the this system, you're playing by ear, you're using the syllables to identify the notes, what you're hearing in your ear. It's an absolutely phenomenal, and it's actually very, very simple. All it just takes is a bit of repetition, but you got to put your 10,000 hours in, man, you know?
Yeah, right. So, but I also think that doing numbers are good because they are the intervals. Trying to explain intervals. 1 2 1 1 3 1 1 4 1.
Yeah, I have mixed emotions about that, but yes, you should be aware of all of that, and whatever works for you. I'm that dogmatic, but I am saying that centuries old system of solfeggio is absolutely a phenomenal tool.
Yeah.
Do, do, ti, so, la, ti, do, do, la, so, la, fa, mi, do, re, mi, fa, re, ti, do, re, mi, do.
But wait,
Very diatonic, dynamic.
you are the
Dynamic
only
line.
cat I know that can scat sing.
Yes, that's true.
Would
With
you do a
fiddle.
little?
Mi,
Ooh.
re, fa, mi, re, do, la, ti, so, fa, mi, fa, do, la, fa, re, so, mi, fa, re, mi, fa, mi, so, mi, re, do, re, do, la, ti, la, mi, re, so, mi, fa, mi, re, mi, so, mi, fa, so. Charlie Parker, Scrapple from the Apple.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
It's not that difficult. There's really, if you look at this, Nancy knows all about this. She teaches the voice all the time. I
Yes.
strongly believe in singing. Always have in my whole life. And in fact, I had a band called Que Pasa, and I used to sing a lot on that band when I was younger. I don't really like my voice too much, but I like the idea of singing. And being even a backup singer was really kind of fun for me to put some harmony on some things and make the music sound bigger. Singing is very, very
I'm very happy when I have a student that can play an instrument though, because I encourage them to learn the melody like with the piano, like actually play the melody out and sing along with it so that you see the intervals, so that you're seeing it in your mind. When I sing now, because I am a pianist, I actually see keyboard notes.
Sure, you should use whatever
It's so valuable.
I'll call them tools. Use whatever tools that you have in your vocabulary, whether it's visual or whether it's oral or whether it's memory of sequential patterns and whatever it is, rhythmic activity, things of that sort. Use it, And when we have such great resources here today in the 21st century, it's ridiculous.
By the way, Dino just popped in to say hello.
Hey, there's a D monster.
Hey,
We got a lot of musicians here, Steve. We got Dino. Mike Melito says hello. Joey
Joe
Corello's
Trello.
here.
hello to them all. And Dino is working next Thursday night from 7 to 9:30 at Rye in Elmira. And I will be accompanying him, and so will Tom Killian, the wonderful drummer from Corning.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Dino sounds, man. We've been playing together lately now that we've been able to play, and boy, we really have a nice little group going at this point in time. He's a monster musician, He's an amazing musician.
Are you familiar, Nance, with Dino? He's a very wonderful player. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Dino and I love getting lost in LA.
It's a pleasure to work with him because he's always bringing new music in, tunes that I might not have known by George Coleman or whatever the piano player might be. So he brings in stuff, and then yet at the same time he can turn around and start playing a tune that was written, in 1928, and we both know the tune because he has deep roots in his background. And we'll play a tune with no arrangements or no charts or anything because we both have a very, very strong common knowledge of tunes that are part of our repertoire, standard tunes, not just bebop tunes, but tunes, really nice. There's Nancy knows exactly what I'm talking about, right?
I'm getting ready to say something.
Yeah,
because all of us, no matter where we ended up, we all did nothing but listen to music our entire lives.
That's
Our
right.
entire lives.
That's how we grew up.
That's how we grew up. I heard Xavier Cugat on maybe Ed Sullivan, or where did I hear him? I bet I saw your dad.
Well, in fact, it's very, very possible. In fact, you may have even seen me because I did the show a couple of times too. But that was later. My father was with Abby Lane when Cugat was married to Abby Lane. But I worked with Cugat when he was married to Charo. And when
Oh.
Charo was on stage, it was me that was playing the guitar.
No
And
kidding.
her
She's
that was
still
up on
alive
stage.
and performing.
Yeah,
Charo.
she still is. She still is.
Oh. Now I understand what I wasn't sure exactly what Rosalind blew in the chat when she said Kugat was sexy musician with his coochie coochie girl, and now I realize
Yeah, that's her.
Charo coochie.
That was
coochie.
Charo. Yeah.
Yes. Now it makes sense now. Yeah.
She's an amazing entertainer. Amazing.
Well, I did many of those shows back in the 60s, the Tonight Show, the Merv Griffin Show, the Johnny Carson, with all those shows, because he was running the circuit right about that point in time, trying to publicize Charo, because his wife had divorced him and married a movie producer who became very, very famous later on. That's what happened then. So I played both vibes and guitar at that point in the band, and did a lot of traveling and did a lot. He was doing the heavy TV circuit at that time. He was living in New York at that point in time.
Back when we actually had music on TV.
Kugat's band deserves a lot of credit, because everybody says that he was very commercial, and there was a measure of truth to that statement. But he is the man that popularized the music that people relate to Carmen Miranda back then, in the 40s and 50s. But he's the one that brought in the music and made it popular, so that the real, the Tito Rodriguez's and the Tito Puentes and those cats in Harlem and in New York City, eventually, and Machito and all of those people, they became very famous in the late 40s and 50s. But Kugat was around before that and had established the idea of Latin music as something that was exotic and interesting. And that's where the marimba came into the picture at that point in time. And my father was one of very few people who actually played the instrument as the major instrument of that time in history.
Right. Do you still play?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't have the
I'm
instrument.
talking about marimba or.
I don't have it set up anymore, but I do have a set of vibes. But I haven't played vibes or marimba in a long time. But I certainly do love both of those instruments, and it came from my father.
I have my little pedagogy that I have when I teach. I have a series of things that need to happen before we move forward. And the third thing, after we learn what a 12 bars blues is, the third thing we do is begin to study Latin music, because it is such an important and integral part of American music.
Absolutely. But it has all of the basic essentials that popular music of today has. It has repetition. It has repetitive chord harmonic structures. It has repetitive rhythmic structures. It has vocalizations like a soloist, like in the Puerto Rican salsa band. It has a soloist that's followed by the coro or the chorus. They sing in 3-part harmony and stuff like, there's real form to that music, and there's real crossover devices that put that music to be very similar to one another's in many ways.
You're talking about Kugat. I actually just kind of was looking up a note on him and saw an interesting tidbit that I guess he was playing in the 20s at Coconut Grove in Los Angeles, and a friend of his by the name of Charlie Chaplin visited that club and danced the tango, which ultimately led to Kugat adding tangos to his band's performances. I did not know that Kugat and Charlie Chaplin, of course, Charlie Chaplin wrote the song Smile,
right?
For those who don't know, but didn't know that Chaplin obviously influenced some of the repertoire of Kugat's band back in the day. And again, this is all connected to the fact that your dad working in that orchestra. So
yes, that was the 20s. And my father worked in the 50s and 60s.
Right.
And then when my father died, I played with Kugat's band for about 3 or 4 years while I was living in New York at that time. I had gone back to New York to live on Long Island for 3 years. And then I came back up here, and I've been in Ithaca since 1968. I started teaching at Ithaca College. Well, before then, 67, I came for a master's degree. So I really feel connected to Ithaca as an Ithacan at this point in time, but I was really from the New York area, and I did a lot of playing down there when I was in high school, and I met a lot of players that later became famous musicians.
How about tell us some names?
Please.
Arnie Lawrence, do you know that name? An alto player. He's deceased now. And oh my God, Lou Tubacan, the trumpet player. I played with Les Elgart's band, and Lou Tubacan was on the band. You see, back then they had rehearsal bands, and they were mixed rehearsal bands, and half the band were African American cats, and I got to play with oh man, I can't remember their names, but some trombone players and some saxophone players that were from Ellington's band, because these rehearsal bands would rehearse on a
Explain to us, for our
afternoon.
that may not know, will you explain to us what a rehearsal band is?
Well, a guy had a book of great arrangements, and these arrangements were all by Frank Foster. They were from Count Basie's band and from Duke Ellington's band, and 3 o'clock in the afternoon till 6 o'clock in the afternoon, you'd go to a bar in New York City and set up and play these tunes.
Play the charts, yeah.
And meet, and it was multi-generational and it was multiracial. It was extremely beautiful experience. And I played with older cats that would teach me about things that I should be doing, or there would be younger cats that were on the band that would come on, like Eddie Daniels, would be on the band, and people of that generation that were from my generation, Ronnie Cuber, the baritone saxophone player. Gosh, I can't remember all these guys.
Yeah.
Did you play? And I know. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Steve. Go.
Well, just quickly, we would play arrangements of all these great musicians, and I got to meet guys, and every time there would always be subs. Every single time there would be subs, so I'd meet more guys. And so I met, really great players. I got to sit in with Roy Eldridge one night because of one of those experiences where I was around at a club. It's a very interesting story.
Makes me want to cry. This is so incredible.
I was just going to throw out the name Gerry Niewood.
Gerry Niewood, man, he was a beautiful, beautiful soul.
I know.
Wonderful player. I took him to Europe with me in the mid 80s as a part of my sextet that I used to take over there in the 80s. I did that for about 5 years or so. And Gerry was on me on a couple of those trips, but we go way back to Chuck Mangione.
Yeah.
And we played together on Chuck's band, and both the big projects, Friends in Love and all of that stuff, we go back to the album together. And then we played after that. We played a lot together in the National Jazz Ensemble with Chuck Israels in 1975, just 1980, somewhere around there. I played with Chuck, and Gerry was often on the band, even if it was a small band. He used Gerry a lot.
Yes.
And what a beautiful lyrical and musical, gosh, what a beautiful, beautiful musician. Just beautiful.
Yeah.
I have some special recordings that I made in Spain that nobody has heard, that he made with my band when we were over in Spain together. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, unfortunately, Gerry was taken from us way too soon.
Just incredible.
Yeah, a tragic airplane accident. I'm gonna just pull up a picture for those people who don't know Gerry. And I know Gerry's son.
Yes.
Did a record with your son, right? Weren't they? Wasn't that the Sons Brothers and Wrestlers?
Yeah, that's right. They did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Adam's got a new album out, and it's very good. It's a trio record on steeplechase. You should check it out. It's very, very good.
Oh, that's the new
bass, drums, and tenor.
Oh wow! And here's
very nice record. There he is.
There's a picture of Gerry doing what he did best, and
yeah.
So yeah, your son and Gerry's son Adam
worked together.
Yeah.
When they took the band on the road for a little while. Also, took my van on the road as a matter of fact. Excuse me, I was trying to help support them, so I gave them my van for a while. They did some traveling to Ohio and stuff like that, playing.
Where in Europe? You said you went to Europe in the 80s. Like where? I mean, you and Nancy are so much more well traveled than I am. I mean, Nancy's been to.
Oh, Steve is more traveled than I am, but nevertheless, it's a interesting story. Go ahead, Eric.
I was just going to ask Steve if he recalls some of the places he visited, and maybe some of the was there any one particular country that really had an appreciation for the music more than others, or
Oh, that's
were
a
you
good
just were you just
Spain.
absorbing it all? Spain. Oh, you said Spain.
Spain. In 1980, I was a member of the National Jazz Ensemble, and Chuck Israels, the bass player that used to play with Bill Evans, called me on the phone, and I said, "You got to be kidding! You're not Chuck Israels." And I hung up on the phone, and he called me back again and said, "No, it's really me." And I was extremely impressed because I had been aware of his playing with those Bill Evans records, and I always thought, man, I'd love to get a chance to play with this bass player, because I'm a very, very fussy guitar player when it comes to bass players.
But you're also a great bass player.
Well, I play okay. My son is a great bass player. And so,
Well, in the scheme of things, trust.
so he said, I want you to join the National Jazz Ensemble, and I want you to come down and rehearse with the band and all that stuff. And I said, I love it. And it was on weekends, and we were doing college tours, and that was the big band, the National Jazz Ensemble. But in 80, he took a 6-piece band to Europe for his first State Department tour. And the tour covered Portugal, Spain, Turkey, France,
Wow.
and Istanbul, Turkey. Excuse me. So I went on that trip, and I made a lot of connections in that trip. And at the first part of the trip, I'm a drummer also. In the first part of the trip, Bill Goodwin couldn't make it for 3 days, so I played half the concert on Bill Goodwin's drums, and then I played the other half of the concert on guitar.
You're talking about Bill. I think I've worked with him. Isn't he down in the Water Gap?
Yes.
Yes.
Marvelous musician.
Yeah.
And so we played in Portugal, and we played in Spain, and we played in France at a club there.
Wow.
And we played at an amphitheater in Istanbul that was full, sponsored by the State Department. So we stayed in nice hotels. We had good transit in the airport. It was a very, very, very nicely sponsored, American-sponsored State Department tour of the National Jazz Ensemble. And it had Joe Temperley on saxophone, and me, and Hal Crook was the trombone player.
Yeah.
Bill Dobbins was the piano player.
Wow.
And Chuck Israels was the bass player, and Bill Goodwin. Yeah, there's Chuck right there. Good for you, man. Good for you. You got
Chuck,
your archive happening, Eric.
Well, Nancy knows I'm
You're a
always
monster, Eric.
I'm always ready to go, and that's Chuck, of course, backing up
Bill Evans.
Bill Evans. Yeah. So
Chuck has been an extremely important influence in my whole life. And we have played ever since 1975 together, either as a duo or a big band or whatever. He has had great faith in my music and so forth, and had supported me beautifully throughout my whole career. And largely because of Chuck, I made the European connections that we're talking about right now. And then after that, Chuck stopped going to these places, and the people asked if I would take over the workshops, and because they knew I was in education. And I said yes. And so I got bands for about 4 years or so that had, Bobby Watson was in it, and Hal Galper, and Todd Kuhlman, and Billy Hart, and Dave Schnitter, and Gerry Niewood, and Wallace Roney, and marvelous Claudio Roditi, a lot of these wonderful, wonderful, wonderful players. And I was able to put these groups together during the mid 1980s. But that was mostly because I had made a connection to some people in Spain. And I guess because one afternoon I said, boy, I really love this country. I'd love to live here. And the promoter looks at me and goes, really?
Yeah, well, come on.
He was hoping I was going to move there permanently. And I thought about it, I'll tell you. But it was a beautiful place. Just for a minute, while I got your attention on this.
Yeah.
There is a group in Galicia, Spain called Atlantic Bridge. And this record just arrived today, and I'm on it. And I know you can't see it too well, but it's got trumpet player Walter White from the United States, from Detroit, and myself on guitar. And then 4 Spanish musicians from a place called Galicia, which is up in the northwest corner of Spain. And it's actually very much like Ithaca in a lot of the parts there. And this is our new album called Portus Apostoli that we recorded a year or 2 ago.
Okay.
It just came out.
Wow.
It's actually on Amazon and all that stuff. So that's just thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah, no,
I'm still connected to musicians. In fact, the piano player in this band Atlantic Bridge was a student of mine as a guitar player, not as a piano player, but as a guitar player in one of my seminars that I did with Chuck Israels back in the early 80s. So we go back quite a bit. And one last thing, I don't want to talk too much.
Please, we're enjoying everything.
Listen, you're our guest.
Enjoying
Please,
it.
we
Okay.
want guests who like to talk, and you have such an encyclopedic knowledge. So please,
Well,
don't-
what's really nice about what I did for and still do for a living is that many and Nancy can attest to this too. Many students call you back, either to just say hello and they tell you that they love you, or they call you back and hire you to play, or they call you back to do some teaching or some recording. And I don't know. You do know the Ashby brothers in Pittsburgh, and
yeah, Marty and
that's-
Jay.
Oh, yes, oh, yeah.
prime example of people I am so proud of, and that Kim Nazarian and so forth, all of those people, because those people went on to be, I make a joke out of it. I call them my disciples, which are my disciples, right? I make a joke about that. And they all laugh when I tell them that I call them all my disciples, right? They go out and they spread the word of this music worldwide. And the Ashby brothers were two of them that have continued to do that for their whole life. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Tell our listeners about the New York Voices and how you had a bit of influence there.
Yes, it was mostly through Darman, and Darman just followed me around from class to class. He wasn't even a jazz major at the time, but he was a monster musician at the time already when he was a kid. I don't take any credit for that.
Talent.
Huh?
He's a huge talent.
Oh, just when I met him, he was.
Yeah.
And a marvelous musician. Yes. So that's the fun part of what I'd always done and still do, actually, is, go out and a lot of times the new opportunities that I get are a result of a student of mine that has formed something of their own and have been kind enough to include me in the festivities, as it were. And so that's the story with Alberto Conde, the piano player in Atlantic Bridge. He was originally a guitar student of mine for 2 years, and then I didn't hear him for a while. And then I understood that he turned out to be a piano player, and he's a monster. He's a wonderful piano player.
Well, it's so funny that you mentioned getting these calls and you mentioned your former students, because talk about a small world. My dad, who's a pianist himself, and actually Ray Cullen, got a call the other day, and this was, he knew that I was having you on the show, but this was just by coincidence. He got a call from a gentleman. Actually, he missed the call, called the person back yesterday, and the person told him that they went to Ithaca College back in the 80s. And I had mentioned to my dad that we were talking with the professor who started the jazz program at Ithaca back in 1968 and was there teaching for 40 years. And anyway, the gentleman's name is Greg Themius. And I believe you and I know you've had a lot of disciples, but you remember the name, Greg?
I certainly do. Yes, I do.
Okay.
He was a very energetic and wonderful saxophone player in my band. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll tell him.
He was a very good musician back then. Very conscientious musician. Yes.
I'll let my dad know the next time he talks to Greg.
Well, that's exactly what I was just talking about. Yeah. Exactly what I was talking about. And that is, and Nancy can attest to this too. That's one of the rewarding things about what we do. The endorphins that we as human beings get as a result of helping somebody else, and then eventually hearing back the feedback to you and saying, you meant something to me that day, or whatever, or something you said or did or directed me to, and so forth. Nancy knows this is the great thing about what we do.
Yes, I have 3 of them leaving for college this year. Several I helped them get into the new school, and
Yes.
what's the one up? Oh, I can't think. I hate how these words don't come.
Berkeley?
Purchase.
Oh, Purchase. Oh.
Yeah. So, and it's a tearful thing, but it's so exciting. It's so, they're ready. They got in. They got accepted.
Yeah.
And I had something to do with that. And I'm telling you, that is a darn good feeling.
Feels good, man. Feels good. Let me tell you a quick story. Do you know the name Todd Kuhlman?
Sure, bass player.
Yes.
He, by the way, he has a podcast that's called Cool Todd Cast, I think. Yeah, Cool Toddcast. Anyway, I saw it last night. And it's really, really good. So you want to check that. It's similar to what we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to that. What was I going to get at?
Todd Coleman.
Well, I was going to tell you, there's a gentleman who's always here with us.
Oh,
What is Frank's last name, Eric? The gentleman who's playing my record in Barcelona now.
Well, he was in the chat earlier.
Yes,
It's,
he was.
Frank Vila.
Yeah, yeah. He's been
Right.
trying to get me to come to Spain, and I very much want to. But he's got a radio show in Barcelona.
right. He must be a younger man because I used to visit Barcelona, but that was in the 80s. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
is, yes. And
Yeah, let me
and that
quickly-
speaks volumes to me. A younger, this is a younger person who has discovered my music. It just
Right.
says,
Wonderful.
really.
Let me tell you about Todd really quickly. We were on the road together, and he's a bass player, a wonderful bass player, and he had even written some books about jazz bass playing. The Bottom Line is one of them. They're very good books about jazz bass playing. And he was talking to me, and he said, "I think I'm going to go back to school and do what you do." And so he did go back to school, and he went and got a degree in jazz studies, I think, and he ended up teaching at Purchase College for, I don't know, 10 years, maybe 20 years, maybe.
Pete Malavati.
And at the end of his career, he was teaching at the University of Indiana in Indiana.
Yes.
And and that felt really good to me because there he is, man. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Because he chose to, saw that there may be a problem just being a jazz bass player all of his life, and that he was very interested in education and in history, and he was totally qualified and knowledgeable to do all of that stuff, right? Because I'd already seen his books that he published, and I had great confidence in his abilities. That's why I hired him two times on two of the tours that I did in the 80s in Spain. I took Todd because not only could he play great, but he was a great human being, and he was also a wonderful teacher, and he had all this background. And then he eventually said to me, "You're the kind of guy that I want to be." And
Wow.
I said, "Okay, baby, go back to school." And that's
Yeah.
exactly
That
what
I have to say is
he just retired.
it
from
is one of
teaching
my
colleges. Yep.
regrets in life is that I did not go and finish my never got a degree.
Well, for him, he felt it was never too late to get.
Yeah, well, it feels too late to me now. I'm tired.
But that's a really great feeling right there, Nance. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
really a great feeling right there, because I know that I influenced his career and that he influenced a lot of people
That's
in a
the thing.
positive way, right?
That's
That's
the
the best part about what we do.
So how long have you been teaching? Are you still teaching privately here and there?
No.
Because of COVID.
Because of COVID, I stopped a year ago.
Oh.
Yeah.
But I have a few people that come by. You know, Joey Arcuri, he's a wonderful bass player.
Oh, Joey
He
is
comes by to play, and we talk about various things. You know, people like that that are very interested in advancing their playing and want to keep the flow going. And it's a joy for me to work with somebody like that too, because he's such a talented kid. You know.
I love that he reinvents himself all the time. I love that.
Yes, he does. He does. He plays.
Yeah. Now we should talk, speaking of talented bass players, we need to talk about your son, Miles.
Well, good. Let me take this advantage. Thank you for doing that. Let me take advantage of this. My son and I have made a record. My son lived in Detroit for a minute and for about 6 years area. And there is a woman named Gretchen Velarde who owns a company called Mac Avenue Records.
Oh, I know Gretchen. I don't know her. I know who you mean. Yes.
She's a wonderful, wonderful lady. And
Yes.
she has a jazz club there. And we played there.
The Dirty
summers
Dog.
ago. Huh?
The Dirty Dog.
Dirty Dog. Yeah, we played there two summers ago because we made this record 2 years ago. This is my son's new album. It's called Evidence of Soul and Body. It's a tune I wrote. We have 5 originals on it and a few older tunes like Blue Gardenia and I'm Old Fashioned and so forth. But it's a beautiful record with Diego Rivera on tenor saxophone, the same name as the Mexican muralist. And
Did Gretchen put that out?
yes, she did. But this is on a label called Detroit Music Factory, DMF. It's
Yeah,
a subsidiary
familiar with
label.
it.
It's
Yeah,
supposed,
they have all those little, yeah, I guess that's the right word.
this is the one supporting Detroit guys, though the ironic thing now is that Miles doesn't live there any longer.
Oh,
But for he's down in Maryland teaching at the University of Delaware right now. He's got a
oh, wonderful.
great position.
Have they, now, I used to live down there, not in Newark, but
New York.
do they have, yeah, they pronounce it Newark. Do they have, I didn't know they had a jazz program there. Do they now have a jazz
They have a
program?
little one, but he's actually teaching 13 classical bass players.
Oh,
He
wonderful.
has a master's degree in classical bass, and he has
Yeah.
a doctorate degree in jazz studies.
Did you know I sang, was it Miles?
This
was-
is Miles.
Yes, didn't I sing at his recital at Eastman?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
I did a horrible job, but God bless him.
Yep. So he's doing great. This is a great new record. It's got
On Amazon.
it's on Amazon. It's available. It's got Sean Dobbins on drums, Xavier Davis from the University of Michigan, I think, on piano. Myself and Diego Rivera. And
Oh, what a
thank
wonderful
you,
photo.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, good.
What a wonderful photo. Oh, doesn't
Really?
he looks like your brother, Steve?
He just got the jazz studies degree approved at the University of Delaware with a unanimous positive vote for the new jazz program at the University of Delaware.
So
Wow.
your
Really
legacy
proud of
is
him.
on and on
What
and
you're
on.
doing. And by the way, the record is killing. He sounds beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
It's really come full circle. I mean, you
Yep.
you obviously playing with your dad, and I can only
Exactly.
imagine what it must have been like. And you probably can remember the first time that you and Miles got to play together. It had to be joyful to play with your son for the first time. What's
Yes.
your recollection of that?
We played a tune called Doxy because I knew that he could read notes, and I wrote out the bass line for him. And there was a reason educationally why I chose that tune, but I won't go into that right now. And anyway, I wrote the notes out, and I just said, play this over and over again, And so he just started reading it, and we started talking about time and the beats. And Miles always attests to the fact that his beat is so good. And by the way, he has impeccable time. And he said it's because of Danny D'Imperio, because we used to go over to Danny's house.
Changed all our
We used to play together all the time. And Miles really began to learn about what tempos are, and what the time feel is all about, right? And so I got to just mention that he was
there's no question.
influence on
Danny is why I swing the way I do. And there's
exactly
no
right.
question
He's
about it.
influenced millions of guys, man.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, he played with me Miles played with me at the Delaware Water Gap when he was 12 years old. So he was pretty mature by that time in terms of certain things at that level, right? And his time was good. His beat was very, very good. It's always been one of his strongest points.
When did he know that music was going to be his passion? I mean, it was.
Well, this is a very good question because at the end of high school, he was going to think about being a doctor.
Oh,
Really?
I'm sorry. My wife just corrected me. He was thinking about being a lawyer.
thank you, Barbara.
And he is, and he's a very fair human being, and always was a good listener and a guy in between the other two. That's something about his personality.
He's a peacemaker.
Yeah, he's a peacemaker. That's the word. But he figured it out after a while that he did enjoy very much playing music with human beings and other people. And he really did enjoy jazz music because of the interaction and the conversation that we have when we play. And, when I play with Dino, he'll play some substitute chords and I know exactly what they are right away. And we play them together and look at each other and grin and laugh at each other, because we're communicating through the music. And Miles is obviously at that level.
And he got into Eastman.
And then he got accepted to Eastman School of Music. And I didn't want him to go to Ithaca College because he would be studying with me, and he'd already done that, and he needed enough fresh land. So he got into Eastman, got his undergraduate degree.
Jeff Campbell? Jeff Campbell?
Wonderful Jeff Campbell, yes. And also he took from Vandermark, the classical bass teacher there too. And he was there 4.5 years and got a dual degree in music education and in jazz studies. And then after that, he taught for a while, and then he got his master's in classical bass in Manus in New York City. And then he got, after teaching, well, I don't know, whatever, eventually got a doctorate in jazz studies at Eastman School.
So do you feel as strongly as I do about the fact that classical training is important?
Absolutely. You know, it's Nancy, and we both know, if it's good music, it's good music. It doesn't have any other label. It's either good, Ellington was right, it's good or bad. It's only
That's
good
it.
music and
Amen.
bad. That's it, man. And there's a lot of bad music out there. A lot of, you know, Nancy,
It's not even music.
next time I want you to pay attention to the next time you go to a birthday party, and do not lead the birthday party song, okay? Just refrain for once, because I know you would lead it and you would give the key, and I know what you would do because I know who you are and why you care and all that stuff, right? But just listen and see how ridiculously, horribly trained the American public is musically today. They cannot sing happy birthday. Not only can they not sing in the same key, they can't sing the intervals properly of the sound of that song. And it's basically triadic.
Yeah, but there's no music in their homes. First of all, that's over with. People do not have speakers anymore.
They don't have piano. By the way, that's why we have such a rich musical heritage in our history of jazz, because everybody didn't have a record player. They had a piano. And what did they do? They all played the piano.
Yep.
Even the guys playing football, even the guys that were running the numbers game down at the corner, they all played the piano. That's where all those pianos came from. They're still in people's houses to this very day, right? Rotting away. People played them. They were literate. They could read music, right? I'm sorry, I'm venting a little bit. But, you know, it's not such a good state of affairs.
Well, so we we went through this period of time when we had so much music inflation. There were so many people graduating college with degrees in jazz in some area that there was nowhere for them to play anymore.
That's true.
So now what we've got are these people are all in the programs teaching. Where are we going to end up with this? I mean, how many people are we going to be able to turn out, and where on earth are they going to play? I mean,
I don't have an answer for that, but I can say this. I think two things. One is that jazz is a music that you feel and that you have to immerse yourself in to appreciate, and you have to shut up and listen, and you have to pay attention, and you have to put mind to things that you're hearing together to make cognitive things happen in your brain, and let people, because of today's internet and communications devices, are 5-minute people rather than 5-hour people.
5 minutes, I'd say like about 3 seconds.
Yeah, I know. 5 minutes is being generous.
My point. So as a result, they're not paying attention to what's going on in terms of how music is constructed or put together. There's nobody teaching that way anymore, and things have changed immensely as a result of that. It's distressing that the level of what we hear is not very good.
And by the way, just to illustrate what you guys were talking about earlier, and you kind of mentioned it without saying the exact quote. I think you guys would agree that this is a true statement right here.
That's the way it is. Yes, right. That's the statement.
There's good music, and there's the other kind. And
yeah, that's true. I said it wrong. Yep.
No, you said it. You said it right. And I just wanted to make sure that people saw that this was from the great Duke Ellington. And again, that quote rings as true today as ever, because there's sadly there's a lot of the other kind out there right now.
Yes, there's a lot of wonderful music in all musical genres. I mean, you can get in any one of the. There's great country and western music if you find the right guy, the right greatness.
Yeah.
Even Charlie Parker liked country and western music, but his response to that music was not so much about the harmony, but rather, quote, listen to the stories, unquote. That's what Charlie Parker said. And he was absolutely right, because he was relating to the basic humanity of the statements that were being made from the lyrics. That's Nancy's department. I don't, I sang a little bit in my career, but, the words. That's why vocal music is always going to be the most commonly popular music in the history of
Well,
art.
and I tell the student,
That's
I teach
words that
I
relate.
teach the students, if you're not going to understand this story, why even bother with
Yeah,
the
right.
words? Just go do. You don't need words.
Right.
So
I was mostly involved in my lifetime in listening to the background and paying attention to what the guitar player was playing and what the piano player was playing.
of course
And
you
of course,
were.
I listened to Billie Holiday, but I didn't learn to phrase like Billie Holiday. I learned to phrase like the piano player behind Billie Holiday.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I listen
I
to
was
a
looking
lot
for
of
my
instrumental.
role as what it was that I wanted to be able to do to support Billie Holiday.
Yeah. Well, you would appreciate the way I work, because I give them a piece of music. I say, learn the music, learn what's on this sheet. Do not listen to anyone sing it.
Yeah, that's right. I agree with that.
Do not do that, because you cannot be influenced by what they are going
Yet
to
on the other side, you could also say to them, to play the devil's advocate, listen to all records of all of me for a week. Listen to
There's that too. There's
listen
that
to
too. But I
16
want them to
versions
go
of
hear
all
horn
of me,
players.
straight from Ella to Miles,
Yeah.
and go, okay, what is this? What am I getting out of this? There's a lot to be said for that.
Well, there's both of those. It
Yes,
depends.
there are.
I
Well,
analyze.
there's always the yin and the yang.
Yeah. And it's important that you be careful, because I got a lot of young people, demographically, because of where I live and where I teach. I get a lot of young people that are, maybe a third of my studio are jazz people. The rest of them are
Yes.
all popular voice.
Right. I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's annoying as hell, but it's how I make a living.
Well, I've taught a lot of popular music in my day, but when I was younger, Stevie Wonder was the deal, man. And Stevie Wonder was a genius.
When did he stop? He's
Paul
still-
McCartney was a genius. And they were in my opinion, they were the same geniuses as Cole Porter and Gershwin and all of that. From their era and from their genre. And they wrote some things that were harmonically interesting, that were formally interesting, that were orchestrationally interesting, and especially the Beatles stuff, all kinds of things like that show up again, that ties these good writers together, and you can put them in a category.
Right. Well, Paul McCartney had jazz and standards in his home. He grew up with that music.
Absolutely correct. That's exactly
But
right.
just, who wrote the lyrics? Could you find out, Eric? Could you find
Eric?
out?
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric. Hi, Eric.
Hi, hey, how are you?
Hi, Eric.
How are you?
Sorry, it took you some time. It's like, what's he? He's the guy. He's like black hair. Yeah. All right. What do you need?
Who wrote the lyrics to Yesterday? Does
Oh,
anyone know? Could you look it up?
Oh gosh, yesterday. Wasn't that?
I'm curious, because if the lyrics are as good as anything, Gershwin or anybody wrote, they're beautiful.
It's Lennon McCartney.
I wouldn't.
Written by Paul, but it's credited to John and Paul. So
Yeah, that's Paul's song.
yeah.
By the way, just for fun, there's a brand new book out that just came out, and it's called Here, There, and Everywhere. And it's by Jeff Emmerich, who was one of the audio engineers for the Beatles records that were the big hits, like the White Album, Abbey Road, Sgt. Pepper, things around that period of time, Revolver, around that period of time. and it's a fascinating read. It's called Here, There, and Everywhere. And of course, that's one of the songs that was written by McCartney. And McCartney says in that book, quote, one of the best songs that I ever wrote was
What?
called Here, There, and Everywhere.
Oh, really? Yeah.
He admits it in the book. So, by the way, it's a very, very fascinating read. And there's a drummer in town, and here, yeah, there, you got it, man.
Listen, I got to work quick.
That's what he does.
I mean, I got to improv, Steve. And so when you mentioned that book, I said, let me see what I can find. And Jeff Emmerich, forward by Elvis Costello. And
It's
I don't know.
wonderful.
People can hear. The Washington Post says Emmerich provides the day-to-day experience of what it was like working with the world's most famous rock group. Wow. So,
Thank you, man. Thank you, Eric. You're really good, Eric. You're very good, man.
well, thank you for recommending. This just sounds like an incredible read.
It's a nice book.
Yeah.
Emmerich would tell us a story about they were trying to get a certain kind of bass drum sound from Ringo's drums, and Ringo was out of the studio, so they took the head off and they put pillows inside the drums and put the head back on. And Ringo came back and fell in love with that sound. And that's where rock and roll bass drum cymbals came from. That this guy was the first guy to put pillows in Ringo's bass drum. And all of a sudden, now this is what we hear when we hear a bass drum in rock and roll. And it's because of this guy. So actually, I don't like that he did that, because I don't like that sound. I prefer to hear a bass drum sound like a drum.
You want to hear the note.
Cardboard box.
Yeah, you want to hear the note. Yeah.
I want to hear the drum, man. Anyway, this guy claims to fame that he was the guy that invented that sound. And all of the heavy rock and roll bands, even to this very day, that the bass drum is, sounds terrible. It's muted, it's muffled.
Isn't that
It's a
interesting?
thump. It's not even a sound of it. It's not even an acoustic sound. It's a thump. So this guy claims that he was the guy that started that sound.
So I assume that you have read this book or are reading it.
I'm done. Yeah, I read it already.
Wow.
It's a fabulous.
I can get it. I like to do the audio ones because I drive a lot.
There's this, you both know him, the great Jimmy Johns lives in Syracuse, and he's a book guy too. He likes to read about jazz history. You should have him on sometimes, because he has a vast knowledge.
He felt a little shy. He felt a little shy about coming on.
Okay, well, maybe I'll talk to him.
Oh, we'd love to have Jimmy on.
But he's a beautiful, wonderful man, and he reads these things. And every time I see him, he said, "Did you read so and so? Did you read this one by Jimmy Heath? Did you read this one by And
we did have another friend of yours chime in earlier. I don't want to leave him out. Always wonderful to hear and see, Steve. Thanks so much for bringing this conversation to all of us. The words of Mr. Ronnie France.
really?
Yes, I know you know Mr. France like we do.
I haven't played with him in so long. He's an incredible bass player, man. Incredible.
Well, he has.
We've been traveling in different circles, but a while back, we used to play a little bit together. Thank you, Ronnie.
Well, he has high respect for you,
Likewise to him. He's a marvelous player, man.
like we all do. I was searching around before the show trying to find some albums that I used to play of yours when I was at WAER, and this one I came across this one, and this I believe was recorded in Ithaca, correct?
Oh, that's the Carriage House.
Yeah. Oh, so you know the Carriage House now?
Yes, I've performed there many times.
Well, I'm sorry to say it's closed.
Oh.
That's too.
It's for sale. I'm very, very sorry to say.
I'm
So
sorry.
That record is a very nice record, and we have, it was called my Friends and Family record because I played a lot of tunes. I played some of Dino's tunes.
Oh.
Played a tune I wrote for Danny. I played, some originals and stuff, and it's a nice record. I always wanted to do a live record somewhere, and we did it there. And Alex Perialis from Pyramid Sound came over and did the remote recording for us. And Barbara did the photography for both the cover photo and the photos in the background. In fact, my wife's done all my album covers for a long time now. I have a good ally in Brown Cats here with my wife, Barbara.
Yes, and I said this to you like earlier. I want to say it on the show. A happy belated anniversary to you and Barbara. 47 years, right?
45.
45. Okay. I didn't mean to add.
47. You'll make it to 50.
I got lucky. I found the love of my life.
You're a lucky man, and
Yeah.
Barbara's a lucky woman. And I was going to say, I also. What?
I said maybe I should go to Ithaca. Everybody seems to keep meeting their husbands and wives there. Anyway,
Good place.
is your guitar very far away?
Yes, upstairs.
Oh. I do have the video if you want me to drop it in real quick, Nancy.
Yeah, but I'd like to hear him playing. Is there any YouTube videos?
Oh yeah.
I thought maybe that would be something you would have found, Eric. I was hoping maybe.
Well, first of all, we still have a few minutes to go, and if there's something that Steve knows of that's on YouTube that it would take a few seconds to find and play, I'd be happy to play one of, especially an original, since Steve's written so many great pieces.
There is an album called Good Lines, Lines, and it's you might look for that, and it's on ITI Records. It's been reissued from a label called Cafe.
Okay.
And there's a song that I wrote called Sweet Angel, which would be an easy one to find. There's also another one called Outstanding, which I wrote dedicated to Wes Montgomery, because he was outstanding.
No, I've got Sweet Angel right here. Now it's 10 minutes long, I see.
Yeah, so you're not gonna be able to play all of it, no.
Well, we
Well,
could play 3 or 4 minutes of it just so we can hear. We want to hear you.
Or you can pick a short one and then just cut it out after about a few minutes. That's no problem with me. There's a nice blues called Mosey on Down that Nancy might like.
You know I'm the blues lady.
Mosey on Down.
Mosey on Down is by Victor Feldman.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
That's short.
Well, I guess there's the full length version, 7 minutes, and then there's like a 2-minute.
Okay,
Let's see what.
do the 2-minute.
Let's see what we can do with that here.
Right.
Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
All right, let me officially share this and do this right here.
I wonder if he could have done Miles.
Let's see.
Yeah, I can't find that share computer sound thing. I don't see it here.
No, I got you.
I don't know, Joe. I don't know what happened when I did that because I've shared things all along on the show.
You guys hear it?
I do. Who is that?
Bill Dobbin.
Steve, do you solo after this?
With that,
You solo after this? Keep it
Yes.
going.
Again, that's the short.
Oh,
okay.
I was hoping to hear Steve solo. That's okay.
Well, I could bring up the longer version. We could hear the.
Put up outstanding. Put up the tune.
I love that. Let me ask you a question, Steve.
Yep.
Has anybody written lyrics to that?
No,
Oh,
not yet.
that's my new thing. I've been writing lyrics to a bunch of stuff.
Well, it's on a Victor Feldman record called.
You wrote it, right?
He wrote it. Victor
Oh,
Feldman.
he wrote it. I was well. I would like to do it.
That's Victor Feldman. It's a great little tune.
Yep, it's coming up. Let me just skip the ad there, and all right. Let's see. We got an outstanding song for an outstanding guitarist. Let's give it a whirl here. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woo!
Wow.
Oh my God. Outstanding. Let me make sure we can see
So
each
who
other
was
here.
I always that was Bill Dobbins. Who's the bass player?
Steve Gilmore from Phil Woods'
I've-
band.
I've worked
Bill
with-
Goodwin from
Yeah,
Phil.
and that was it was Bill. Oh, okay.
Bill
Wow.
Goodwin, yep. Bill Goodwin was the producer, and he produced, about 4 or 5 of my albums at the time. Because that one he played on, but later on I had other records that I made where I had used a different drummer, like Billy Hart was on one of them, and Jamie Haddad was on another one. But Bill Goodwin was there as the producer. He's really has done a lot of producing. In fact, he has a label in the Delaware Water Gap, and I forgot what the label was called. I think it's Delaware Water Gap Records or something, or no, Deerhead Records or something.
Yeah.
And he's been producing records there. And before that, he owned Omnisound Records for a little bit, and had a whole bunch of jazz records made in the 70s when John Scofield was young and just beginning to record. Bill recorded a group called Solar Energy, which had John Scofield in it, and really, really interesting fusion records from that period of time. Yeah.
And Delaware Water Gap is where the Deerhead Inn
Yes.
is.
And
Yep.
Bill Goodwin lives there.
Yeah, and that's where isn't that where Phil Woods?
Phil
lived?
lived halfway up the hill right behind the hotel.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah.
Oh my God! I got to see Phil perform a couple of times. Once with the CNY Jazz Orchestra, and it was a treat. Although Phil at the time still needed he was using oxygen, and
Yes, right.
but yet he got on stage, and I mean was still Phil Woods. So what a treat!
He was for one of the years there was a festival they have there that you might know about called the Celebration of the Arts.
Yeah.
That they used to do in September, and I wrote a piece for the what they call the Coda Cats, which was the Celebration of the Arts high school all-star band, and I wrote a piece that featured Phil and me, and it was dedicated to a guitar player named Harry Leahy, who had just passed away. And so I took the tune After You've Gone, and I wrote a new melody and a big band arrangement that featured Phil Woods on alto and me on guitar.
Wow.
And the band played it at the festival in dedication to Harry Leahy. And so I called it After He Left.
Ah.
And then I've since made another shorter version of it that I use the title called Absquatulation, and I got that word from Danny D'Imperio, which means to decamp from the, when the gig's over, you get out as fast as you can. You absquatulate. You leave town as fast as you possibly can. Let's absquatulate. So I now call it absquatulation. But I had the pleasure of playing with Phil on a number of occasions. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure we've
Go
got
ahead. Nick.
a lot of our lingo from Danny.
Yes, we have. Yes.
A lot of it. He's quite the character.
And you also wrote one of my personal favorite Steve Brown recordings, Night Waves. Didn't you write a song called A Modification?
Modification, right.
For Ahmad Jamal?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Had a little bit of that Poinciana kind of feel to
Yes.
it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and there's a Bill Dobbins song on that record as well, Red's Blues.
Oh, that's a great little blues. That's a great little blues. It's sort of in the Barry Harris bebops kind of style. Yeah, it's a great little blues. You should check that. Well, you know that cut. That's a very, very good cut. You should hear its piano solo. The solo on that record is very good. Yeah.
And I want to make one other point. I mentioned about my dad talking with Greg Themius. Last night, my dad had dinner with a friend of his who he, when I mentioned about Steve, he was going to ask his friend if he knew of you. And he said, I certainly know Steve Brown. The guy's name, he's a guitar player named Don DeMarco.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Don and my dad actually got to play with Vic Damone towards the end of Vic's career. And
right.
When they got home last night after dinner, Don called the house to tell my dad that at his house, he had a number of your recordings, and one of which was a record you did with Steve LaSpina,
right,
and a sax player that I wasn't familiar with, but my dad, I guess, played with back in the day, a guy named Bob Keller.
Wow.
Those guys. Yep.
Yeah.
That is the small world, man.
Yeah.
It really
By the way,
is.
that's a really, really nice little trio record. It's really nice. Bobby Keller and I go way back to when I was 15 years old.
Whoa.
And he lived on Long Island. And I had a band in high school that consisted of my brother Roger playing bass and me on guitar, and a tenor player sometimes. And his name was Lou Delgado. And he eventually became associated with Saturday Night Live for many years. He was a contractor in New York, and he played on the show for a while.
Mm.
And whenever I couldn't get Lou Delgado, he used to suggest to me that I hire this kid that was his age, and that was Bobby Keller.
Ah,
And Bobby Keller eventually turned out to be a teacher at in New York City. He played all of Annie. He played all of these shows, The Lion King. He played
Oh,
all these
wow.
shows in New York City. He played as a son. He played on Buddy Rich's band for a year or so. He did a lot of studio recording in New York City. And I just talked to him last week, and he's still alive, and he's
Oh.
actually 80 years old now.
Oh, that's
he's a
wonderful.
wonderful, wonderful tenor player. And he just, the record, that record's called It's About Time because he wanted to make a record for so long. Nancy knows this feeling that you're
Yeah.
working, trying to get something out there for a long. So we just went into Red Rock Studio, and Nancy knows where that is. And we went down and just, Miles, my son, was supposed to be the bass player, but he had been fooling around on the road and he broke his arm.
Oh,
When he was wrestling with one of the guys with the orchestra, one of the orchestra players, he was wrestling in a hotel room, and he broke his arm, so he couldn't play the record date. And Steve Laspina at the time was Jim Hall's guitar player.
Yeah, I've worked with
wow.
Yeah, he's a marvelous bass.
Yeah.
I mean, bass player. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a marvelous,
He
marvelous
was the bass player, Eric. Remember when we had Russ Kassoff on?
Yeah.
It was Russ and Steve Laspina
Yes.
and Steve Johns.
Oh yes.
Yes.
John.
And
Yes.
Bucky Pizzarelli came in once in a while.
Nice. Well, Steve Laspina was also Marion McPartland's bass player for a number of years.
Yeah.
That's right.
Did a bunch of records with her.
I mean, not being in New York is so hard, but
Yeah.
oh,
But
so-
Bobby immediately got in touch with Steve, and
Wow.
we had a great. It went very well. I mean, most of the cuts were first takes.
Well,
Actually,
Don loves the
spending
record.
more than 6 or 8 hours at the studio,
yeah.
if that much, and we made a whole record that whole afternoon. It went very smoothly.
Well,
Bobby had sent me music in advance, and I had sent him some stuff in advance, and we practiced. We had our
Yeah.
thing together. So, and the Spina was a joy to play with.
yeah.
And we just played in the same room together. We didn't even use it was just a trio. So if anything
good
went wrong,
sound.
we just made another take, like the old days.
Well,
Yeah.
my dad's friend loves the record. Loves it.
I'm glad you heard it, man. It's a really nice record. I'm very proud of that record, actually.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah. Thank you.
we're just so proud that you've taken time on a Sunday evening, and this has been just
Oh, wonderful.
a wonderful, trip into your mind, and to hear about so many great stories and your work with students and how many lives you've touched and helped grow. And again, Nancy, I can't relate, but Nancy can relate, and hearing the two of you at the outset talking about solfeggio, and it's just been an absolute joy. And Ithaca College it truly is blessed to have had your teachings for 4 decades, and your disciples are better people for it. So
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nancy.
Oh, you're welcome.
I love you.
I love you dearly. I love you and regard
Thank
you.
you so much, Eric, for the
well,
opportunity.
been a pleasure, and I look forward to the time when I can see you again. I still think back to when the Salt City Jazz Collective would play once a month downtown at the Suds Factory, and I know you would sometimes be sitting in with them, and they'd play some of your originals. And
Right. Well, we just got together last week in Scandi Atlas. It's the first time we've been together in a year and a half.
I saw the band was going to be out there. I didn't realize that you would join them for that.
Yeah, I've been a permanent member for a year or two.
Oh,
now.
so you're a permanent. I thought you're like a
Yeah.
special
I
guest.
love those guys. It was a wonderful hang. I enjoy not only the music, but I enjoy the hang.
Yeah.
Who's playing drums?
Kenyatta King.
I need to talk to you about that.
Yes.
Well, hey, why don't you hold up real quick? Can you hold up the recording again, the new recording that you're on?
Okay.
We want everybody to search this out on Amazon.
There's one of them called Atlantic Bridge Jazz Project.
Okay.
That's with Walter White on trumpet and myself, and 3 other guys from Spain, and a saxophone player from Spain. Interestingly enough, his name is Jorge Pardo, and I played with him a long time ago in the 80s. And Pardo in Spanish is brown.
Oh!
He came up to me and said, "My name's George Brown," and I said, "You're kidding me, man."
Ah,
But he's a marvelous flute and tenor player. This one just came today. It's called Portus Apostoli,
okay,
which is related to a town called Noia in northwestern Galicia, northwestern Spain,
great, great.
where the apostles landed. That's why it's Portus Apostoli, where the apostles landed when they came to Santiago de Compostela, which is the center of Catholic religion in northern Spain.
Wow.
We were there for a festival, and Walter saw the name on a sign and in a bar, and he said, "Okay, that's going to be the name of this tune I just wrote. I didn't have a title for it." And it worked out great. It's a
Yes, it
beautiful
did.
tune, by the way. And then there's
then there's-
also
Yeah,
my son Miles's record is this one, Evidence of Soul and Body, and it's on Detroit Music Factory, and you can get these at this one for sure at Amazon.
okay,
And it has a wonderful cast, especially the piano player Xavier Davis. He's Tom Harrell's piano player right now.
oh, yeah, sure.
Fabulous, fabulous piano player, man. Really sweet cat. Yeah, this record went very smoothly too when we made it. We went in one. Well, we actually did 2 days on this one.
All right, outstanding.
Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. I appreciate
Well,
it.
no, our pleasure. We want you to plug, new music, and look forward to seeing you again in person, Steve.
Likewise. Thank you, Nancy. You were a joy to talk to.
Oh, thank you, as always. A great pleasure. Great.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you,
I'll
thank
see
you,
you on a stand, man.
Okay.
absolutely. And again,
Look forward
regards
to it.
regards to Barbara, and please give Miles our best too.
I will, for sure.
Everyone,
Okay. Good night.
Have
have a lovely evening.
been a
Night, night.
pleasure.